Here we go. We've arrived at the final episode, the final chapter of Win or Lose, which has been some of my favourite Pixar content in years. It's so good. We need some sort of follow-up. They could surely turn this concept into a movie. We need more, but I guess we can talk about that in a little while. First up, we have an episode to watch. The longest episode of the season by far, this one primarily follows the character of Coach Dan and his life in the lead up to the big game, but also serves to wrap up the story of a bunch of other characters who need their final resolutions from their cliffhangers at the end of each episode. This one was probably my most anticipated episode, and don't get me wrong, I did enjoy it. I just think that maybe the coach could have had his own episode, and they had that final combination episode to end things off. I reckon the show would have benefited from another 10 minutes or so to really finish it off and give it time to breathe as a story. Either way though, it was still a great finale, and let's jump into it, shall we? We start off with a scene that's just extremely peaceful and deeply satisfying to me. The coach turns up to ensure that the pitch is ready to go for the day's match. He takes a deep breath and gets to work. He hoses down the dirt and carefully rakes it, whilst also trimming any weeds or long strands of grass. He takes a brief moment to soak in the sunrise before he sets up the bases and starts painting the lines of the pitch. Damn, this was so oddly satisfying. One of the best oddly satisfying moments in Pixar history, to tell you the truth. I'm not going to tell you it's the best one that Pixar's ever done. That certainly belongs to the repair of Woody in Toy Story 2, which will remain goated until the end of time, but this scene just got you feeling happy, feeling at peace, hell yeah. As he paints the lines, it creates a sort of Star Wars energy shield dome, which I guess is meant to show that this is the coach's safe space, the place he feels the most comfortable. A shield against the world. We then get a look at the way he coaches the team, and that is by being a supportive man who strives to keep everybody positive and on track. When Kai's feeling bad about her performance, he tells her she did well and leaves her looking really happy. When Ewan's being mean and toxic to the team, he shuts it down with a simple look. Really, he is the team dad. As part of his visual storytelling, whenever he's anxious or stressed, he sucks in a huge breath and holds it like a balloon. The first time we really see that is when Laurie's going for a catch, and he mumbles to himself about how he hopes she catches the ball, just like they'd practiced. She doesn't, and Kai saves the day, which leaves him feeling a little bit deflated until he realizes the team won, which leads to a rather funny scene transition just before he swears. I know it's a pretty basic joke, all things considered, but it got a really good laugh out of me simply because I wasn't expecting it. Then Coach Dan gets his own taste of the creepy spider parent coalition. Honestly, I can't believe it took me this long to realize that these are the same parents from the PTA that ambushed Vanessa after her meeting with Frank with the sole purpose of talking shit. Although, it also puts things in a slightly different light. These parents probably do see that Rochelle has to act older than she should and take on more responsibility, like when she went to the parent meeting about the fee increases. So on the one hand, yeah, I did kind of get these parents' perspective. Then they ambush Dan with the knowledge that they want to replace him as coach with Kai's dad, James. So they're taking away his safe space, the softball pitch, and giving it to somebody better than him. Or at least, somebody they perceive to be better than him. I like that they sort of mirror this dynamic with Laurie and Kai a little bit. So yeah, this scene, very awkward. They didn't even have the decency to be all nice about it either. I actually found myself getting heated at this. Shit, even James is really patronising. My god, what a thankless job this seems to be. The hits just keep on coming for Dan. Seriously, I don't think a single character has had this depressing a come down from their height. He had that really fun, peaceful start, then he gets fired from his job as the coach, with this final championship game being his last in the role. He drives home and his older daughter runs over the mailbox and runs away crying so he can't comfort her. He has to confront the fact that the family home is no longer his home, and the family's moving on without him, that he's an outsider now. Then he goes and has to stay in a motel because I presume the house is not ready for him to move in yet. So he spends the night watching videos of him and the team and Laurie. I'm guessing a big part of coaching the team for him is being part of Laurie's life even when he doesn't live with her anymore. This is just massively depressing. Since his work life doesn't really have much relevance to the story at hand, as it doesn't intersect with other characters or impact the narrative or what happens to Dan, we skip ahead quite quickly. First, we see the training with Kai and Laurie. In Kai's episode, it felt like she was giving Laurie some tough love and projecting things she thinks about herself into Laurie's batting attempts. This scene makes that clear. It was all in Kai's head. She was actually being very supportive before she gets taken out. Dan takes Kai home. James tries to talk to him, not trying to clear the air or make him feel better about anything, but to try to impose his thoughts onto the lineup. And it really sounded like he was trying to suggest that Laurie shouldn't be on the field. Do they have a bench when they're fielding? I don't really know about softball. Either way, this just made me disdain this man. Imagine being this way. Let the poor bastard have his last match before you take it all away. Anyway, when this guy mentions Laurie, it makes Dan realize he drove off with Kai and just left his daughter alone at night. Damn. He races back and she's not there. He reads her texts, and it all just upsets him, and he starts inflating again. He drives off to eat junk food from the gas station, and yeah, he's hit rock bottom. What the hell? This is all so sad. When's it gonna start getting happy again? Although I did love that they managed to keep it from being too depressing by interweaving some humour into the story. Like, yes, you have a scene of him forgetting his daughter and his heartbreak when he realises, but then they have him sitting alone eating cheesy dip in the car, singing to the radio whilst crying. You know, on the surface that's sad, but it's presented in a goofy way that doesn't leave you feeling all that sad. He falls asleep, wakes up, weird orange soda prophet child is there once again. Who is this kid? Is it meant to be some sort of softball spirit? Guess we'll never know. I think it's clear that Dan's life up to the day of the game has pretty much sucked. Truly sucked. I feel like they don't go into it quite as much as they could have, though. It felt like the divorce and everything would have been quite interesting to dive into, the family dynamics. I was hoping for frank levels of character study and introspection, so this did feel a little bit wasted to me. Like I said earlier, they probably could have used an additional episode to help flesh things out. The stuff on the night of the championship alone could have formed its own episode based on the runtime. Then you could slap an extra 10 minutes onto Dan's individual story before that to explore his divorce, his daughters, his living situation, happy memories, the reason he loves coaching softball, anything you want. I'm not saying it's bad, I'm just saying they could have done more to get me on board with the story and give me something to sink my teeth into to help me understand him on a deeper level, like the other characters, because all the other leads got that throughout the season, but he got given the least compelling narrative by the writing by far. Here we start moving into some multi-perspectives, and we get to start interweaving storylines. For me, this is where the episode really starts cooking. We get a very cool sequence where we see all the lead-ins for the characters as the shot pans over the stadium. We have Laurie getting out of her car looking anxious and her mum just leaving, not even bothering to watch the championship game. I wish we could get more of that, understand her more. We see Taylor and Ewan fighting and Taylor yelling at Ira. Ewan slaps Tom's ice cream out of his hand. Oh, Ewan. There are some lines you don't cross, buddy. Dan's still getting harassed by James about taking on his lineup, and Kai's being crushed under the pressure of everything going on. And this episode is going hard on making me hate James. It's gotta be Dan's bias talking though, right? His own point of view. There's no chance Mr. You have to win, Kai, is gonna claim to the other parents that this game's a wash, that it doesn't matter. He would want to win. So I think Dan's just hearing what he thinks James would say, rather than what's true. I hope. So he gives his team the speech, they have a meeting with Frank before the game starts. Here is where things cut over to Ira and the bleacher creatures. Last time, it felt hopeful for their little meeting, like Brian had realized he went too far with what was going on. This time though, it feels different. It feels creepy, imposing, less hopeful. It has eerie music, and it's quickly revealed that they were full of shit as what's-her-name crawls out from the snack shack having stolen Rochelle's keys and thus the money. For charity, they claim. This is a top 10 anime betrayal moment for me. For real, I was so pissed. Ira takes the money from them, he runs away, they catch him in the chicken head briefly whilst he screams and escapes. Here it's revealed that Taylor was only breaking up with Ewan when he threw the pitch at her head. She had never intended to leave the game permanently until she heard her little brother screaming. Priorities. I do have to wonder though, how the hell does nobody else hear him? Nobody hears the screaming child just below the bleachers? No? Yikes, this is how you end up on a milk carton, kids. We then see Kai save the day along with Tom and move on to the final innings. You know what I liked about this sequence? That Dan feels real. He is not Mr. Perfect Dad. He knows Laurie sucks, and he doesn't want her batting now because he knows she has no chance to hit the ball. But when he sees that she's crying after her second strike, he has to deflate himself and put aside his own anxieties to be a dad, to be better, to reassure her. Even though really deep down he doesn't think she's going to hit the ball and that they're going to lose now, he puts all of that aside to make her understand that it's all okay no matter what happens. She gets hit in the face, gets to walk to first, which brings Kai in, who hits it long, and two of the fielders crash into each other. This lets her and Laurie make a big run, and Laurie actually makes it home. I gotta say, the voice actor for Coach Dan, top tier. Dude has the best dad voice just for starters. But this moment where Dan realizes that Laurie's about to make her first ever run, you can hear so much in his voice when he shouts out, "Go Laurie." Hope, love, excitement, it's all there and so heartwarming. Man, and his face when she gets there. Here I am crying about a softball cartoon. No regrets. This is the life I chose. Kai then makes the choice to keep running as well to win them the game. It's actually a pretty dramatic scene, a very intense reverse piggy in the middle. So much emotion is going into this scene. So much is lying under the surface. Kai wants to please her dad and win the game. James and Dan have these contrasting ideas on how to coach and their opinions on what Kai needs to do. Kai's soldiering on through injuries no matter the cost to win, whilst also being crushed under the weight of expectation and anxiety. She slides for home, and she's out. Then she sinks into the dirt fully. She's just gone, fully crushed, feeling like a complete disgrace and complete disappointment, like a failure. James notices the catcher doesn't have the ball, and he enters the field, which starts to crack Dan's safety dome thing. It was already wonky before, feeling rejected by the parents and like he'd failed as a father, but now James, the usurper, is encroaching on his last match that he gets to coach with the team. James takes umbrage with Frank's call, who at first is just taking the abuse and crying. His armor doesn't appear, he's too weak, and so the parents are ripping him to shreds, which brings Francis the janitor out of nowhere to save his Frankie poo, for some reason. In the context of what's really happening in this scene, as in real life, because we know it's stylized, was this guy just in the stands and he came to defend Frank before getting yelled at by the parents as well? Did somebody toss a beer can at his head? Or is this dude just some hallucination on Frank's part? These are the deeper questions I need to know. With Francis incapacitated, Frank gets angry. Very angry. The armor is back and this dude is raging about how they all have to live with the call. Forever. The parents then turn on Dan and start yelling at him for not fighting for their team, and he tries to brush it off until Ira, under the chicken head and being chased by the creatures, accidentally bumps him into Frank. Frank, on edge from being screamed at by the crowd and having gone somewhat feral from his lingering grief at his ex moving on with her life, sends Dan out of the game. Then Dan snaps. Oh, I love the reaction shot as he keeps blowing up into the huge angry balloon monster. I know he really isn't a balloon, he's just yelling, but it's the fact that everybody is seeing this famously nice and happy dude just absolutely snap. In real life, it's always a shock to see. I feel like they really captured that awe that you feel in those moments. Like when a nice teacher at school who's always friendly, always happy, suddenly loses their mind because the trash no-hoper at the back of class has pushed them slightly too far on the wrong day. We then start to wrap up some of the storylines a little bit, starting with Taylor and Ira. Ira gets caught by the creatures, they snatch the money, only for Taylor in cartoon hero form to swoop in from the mist and whoop him. Okay, so I know that Ira has the cartoon mind that makes things more fantastical, so Taylor clearly didn't hit them with a power hammer. But I have to ask, what happened? Because at the end, Taylor ends up with the money. Her and Ira give it back. Does Taylor legit just appear and beat the shit out of these people? Do you reckon she had a softball bat or something? Don't get me wrong, I'm all here for that. Get them. I feel betrayed by their awful personalities. They deserve it. What losers. I'm like that meme from Next Top Model.
I was rooting for you. We were all rooting for you. How dare you?
I really wanted them to turn out to be okay people, but they suck. Taking advantage of a little boy and a little old lady who runs the snack store. Trash. Kill him, Taylor. Meanwhile, it's heating up on the field as well. Dan and Frank are still going at it, and it's very childish and pathetic. I like that the episode actually made time to show the brief reaction shot of the parents just looking embarrassed by this. We get to see the stylized version. They see two grown men raging, trying to snatch a game ball and flags away from one another. I've played sports. I've seen this type of shit before, and it's always cringe. Often it's very funny though, I will admit that, and they do capture the humorous side of it by having a knight battle a balloon man. The PTA demon parents then challenge Frank, whilst Laurie and the team go to try to calm down Dan. Vanessa swoops in to defend Frank with her positivity superpowers, and we shift the scene over to James and Kai. Also, side note, finding out that the blonde arsehole guy doesn't even have a kid on the team and is just passionate about softball, that was very funny. But imagine going to a junior league match just to heckle and be a douchebag. Pfft, this dude really did deserve to cop that hot dog to the head. What a wiener. Oh, and we also resolved the pink eye storyline. Not that it was much of a storyline, it's just that one kid had pink eye the whole time. Wait, why is he out here sweating, touching the ball, etc. when he has conjunctivitis? Disgusting! Ugh, and turns out he got the girl, who still has it in both eyes. Ugh. But yes, James and Kai. This scene was a tearjerker. God damn. Well and truly game of the feels. James finds Kai and thinks they can still fix things and win the game. But Kai tells him that she's done. At first he pushes back, but when he sees she's crying, everything changes. He shifts, becomes more gentle. She tells him that she feels like she's always making up for something, that she's never good enough. I love that they bothered to show the whole range of emotions on his face. They don't rush his response, they show him hesitate, show him struggle. They let that emotion linger as he realizes he's been pushing her too hard and not looking deeper. He's only been thinking about himself, but he's not been seeing her properly. He goes on to tell her that she is enough, and they embrace and cry, and I cry, and we all cry. We then sort out the remaining rage on the field. Laurie and the team come together to calm down the coach, they sing to him, and show their love and appreciation. Make him understand it is just a game in the end, and they all care about him. They hug, and this is really cute. His little bubble returns just around their huddle. Meanwhile, things are really kicking off in the parent free-for-all. The best part for me was the guy shouting, "Hold me back, hold me back, hold me back!" Oh, I love that sort of thing. It's so stupid, but so perfect. Somehow, Zane, Vanessa's son and Rochelle's baby brother, swallows a Swedish fish. And here comes Mr. Brown to the rescue. He stops him choking, is good with the baby, and then he and Vanessa have a moment. His armor comes down. He's ready to take a risk. They even almost kiss. That's a bit sudden. I reckon that was probably just from their POV though, right? They were probably just making eyes at one another, imagining kissing. Although, Rochelle noticed and was disgusted. So maybe not. Ewan makes up with Taylor by offering a heartfelt apology, and the game resumes for another innings. I guess, for a tiebreaker? I don't know the rules. We transition to a pizza place, and we never learn the result. Do they win? Do they lose? Ultimately, it doesn't matter. The story is about the personal journey of each of the characters. It's not about winning. Like Dan said, it's not about being the best, but trying your best. It's about parents and children coming closer together. It's about finding love, losing love, and becoming a better person for it. Learning about friendship and not compromising yourself. The show was so damn good. I love the little wrap-up scene at the end where they're all happy, eating pizza, and just being content. There are hints that Laurie's a better coach than she is a player, at least according to Conjunctivitis. She also seems to be giving him a look, if you ask me. At least I thought so. Frank and Vanessa are clearly going to be a thing, which is very cute. Taylor and Ewan are done, which also makes a lot of sense. I like that not everything's going to have the full-on happy ending in that way. The things he did, I think, are forgivable, but you can't walk them back. Them breaking up makes sense. They take a group photo with all their coping mechanisms appearing in the pic, and we end with Laurie and Dan walking back to his place. But their dynamic's different. They both seem so much happier and more content with one another. Then comes the kicker. She no longer wants to play softball. Maybe she only played to spend time with her dad, but with his new place and having gotten that support from him during the game and vice versa, she doesn't feel like it matters anymore. They can just be father and daughter anytime they want. I mean, notice how he's all cool with calling her mum to let her know that she's staying with him tonight. Meanwhile, in episode 1, when she wanted to hang out with him, he couldn't because it was a mum night. He didn't want to encroach on that. It's a very happy and hopeful ending. But I'm still sad because it feels tailor-made for more. But we're not getting any, and that sucks. Come on, Pixar. Not even just one little movie. Just one incy-wincy movie. Please. So yeah, with all that being said, these have been my opinions, and I'd like to hear yours. What did you think of the final episode of Win or Lose? Did you like it? Hate it? What about the show itself? I'm curious for your thoughts, so make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and let me know.